r/AskReddit by Redmond ETS. What is the funniest joke you've been told that you still think about to this day? A police officer pulls over a semi-truck. He gets the usual license and registration, but hears strange noises coming from the trailer, so he decides to investigate. Inside, he finds 50 penguins. "Sir, why do you have 50 penguins in your truck?" the officer asks the driver. "Well, they're my friends, and we like to go on journeys together in my truck," the man replies. "I'm sorry sir, but you can't just own 50 penguins. I'm afraid you're going to have to take them to the zoo." The man agrees and drives off. The next day the same cop pulls the truck over again, and once again hears strange noises in the trailer. He goes to check and finds the same 50 penguins. "I thought I told you to take these penguins to the zoo yesterday." The cop angrily tells the driver. "I did take them to the zoo. They loved it. Today we're going to the beach." My go-to NSFW joke. An army general is newly stationed in a desert post. On his first day, he calls for a soldier to show him around. While doing this, he notices a camel randomly tied to a tent. He asks the soldier, "Soldier, why is that camel tied to the tent?" The soldier looks awkward and answers, "Well sir, as you know there are no women on the base, so the camel is there for when the men get certain, urges." The general nods in understanding and says, "Well, I don't condone this behavior, but I suppose I understand." A few weeks into the post, the general starts feeling these urges himself. He calls for the soldier to bring the camel to his tent. He then goes outside, gets a stool, and has wild animal sex with a camel. After he's finished, he climbs confidently off of the stool and sees the soldier staring at him, wide-eyed. "So," the general says with a grin, "is that how you boys do it here?" The soldier answers, still wide-eyed, "No sir, we usually just ride the camel into the nearby town where the women are." A piece of string walks into a bar and orders a drink. The bartender tells him, "Sorry, we don't serve strings here. Get out." The string walks out and unravels one end of himself and ties himself up a few times and walks back in and orders a drink. The bartender says, "Aren't you the string that was just in here?" The string replies, "No, I'm afraid not. Heard this joke probably 23 years ago. Still love it and tell it to people." An old man is lying on his deathbed with his wife at his side. They had 3 kids, but the last one, Steve, looked nothing like the first 2, so he was always suspicious. The old man looked at his wife and says, "Honey, it doesn't matter at this point, but I need to know. Is Steve my son?" His wife smiles and says, "I swear to you, he is your son." The old man then dies peacefully. Then his wife says, "Thank God he didn't ask about the first 2. An old man is lying on his deathbed. It has been months since he was able to get out of bed on his own. As he closes his eyes for what he thinks might be the last time, he suddenly realizes he smells something familiar. It's one of his favorite smells in the world. It's his wife's chocolate chip cookies. He thinks about his wife, who had stood by his side for 50 years, who gave him their 3 wonderful children, who has cared for him through this last horrible illness, and is now in the kitchen, making him his favorite treat one final time, and tears come to his eyes. It gives him the strength to raise his head, and sit up, and put his feet on the floor. He slowly makes his way out of the room and down the stairs, nearly collapsing at several points, but led on by the delicious smell of his favorite cookies. He makes it to the kitchen, and sees the cookies on a platter, dozens of them, warm and inviting. He reaches out with one shaky hand, his mouth watering. Suddenly his wife slaps the back of his hand with a spatula. "Don't eat those," she shouts. "They're for the funeral." A man walked into a bar, sat down, and ordered a beer. As he sipped the beer, he heard a soothing voice say, "Nice tie." Looking around, he noticed that the bar was empty except for himself and the bartender at the end of the bar. A few sips later, the voice said, "Beautiful shirt." At this, the man called the bartender over. "Hey, I must be losing my mind," he told the bartender. "I keep hearing these voices saying nice things, and there's not a soul in here but us." "It's the peanuts," answered the bartender. "Say what?" "You heard me. said the barkeep. It's the peanuts, they're complimentary. A priest, an imam, and a rabbit go to donate blood. The nurse asks, do any of you know your blood group? The rabbit says, I think I'm a typo. I was driving down the road and saw a hitchhiker. Being in a generous mood, I decided I'd give him a ride. After I picked him up and we started on down the road, he was very thankful, but said, you aren't scared that I could be a serial killer or something? So I chuckled, looked at him and said, the chances that we are both serial killers is probably pretty low, don't you think? George W. Bush was sitting at his desk in the Oval Office when an aide came in. Sir, here is today's list of casualties from the coalition in Iraq. I'm sorry to say that we lost a Brazilian. Bush dropped his head into his hands. Oh no, oh no, oh no. The aide felt bad. He had never seen him so distraught. Sir, is there anything that I can do for you? Bush looked up and asked with pain visible in his eyes. Yes. Just tell me. How many is a Brazilian? A Holocaust survivor dies and gets to heaven and tells God a Holocaust joke. God says, that's not funny. Jewish guy says, I'm sorry, I guess you had to be there. A Holocaust survivor dies and gets to heaven and tells God a Holocaust joke. God doesn't laugh. Jewish guy says, I'm sorry, I guess you had to be there. God says, it isn't funny after you heard it 6 million times. An Irish man walks into a bar. He orders 2 shots, drinks them both, and then leaves. The next day, the Irish man returns, orders another 2 shots, drinks them both, and then leaves. He continues to do this for some time, when one day the bartender questions him. How come you always order exactly 2 shots? The Irish man replies, well, you see, my brother and I used to go out drinking every night, but he lives across the country now, so every night, I order 2 drinks. One for myself, and one for my brother. Things remain the same for a while until one day the Irish man comes in and orders only 1 shot. The bartender becomes concerned and asks him, how come you're only ordering 1 shot? Did something happen to your brother? Is he okay? The Irish man replies, of course not, my brother's fine. I just quit drinking. I have a soft spot for the old but gold. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson are going camping. They pitch their tent under the stars and go to sleep. In the middle of the night, Holmes wakes Watson up. Watson, look up at the stars and tell me what you deduce. I see millions of stars, and even if a few of those had planets, it's quite likely there are some planets like Earth. And if there are a few planets like Earth out there, there might also be life. Watson, you idiot, somebody's stolen our tent. How do you make holy water? Easy. Just boil the hell out of it. What do you call a black man flying a plane? A pilot, you racist. I love this one too. Told it drunk one night and reversed the punchline on accident, which made it even better. A racist, you fucking pilot. Why does a chicken coop only have 2 doors? If it had 4, it'd be a chicken sedan. And why do seagulls fly over the sea? If they flew over the bay, they'd be bagels. A man dies and goes to hell. He's met by a big ugly demon who tells him he must choose his eternal punishment behind one of 3 doors. Behind the first door is endless fire, everyone and everything is burning. Behind the second door is ice. Everything is frozen, people's limbs break off, etc. Behind the third door, everyone is standing up to their chests in shit, but they're drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes. Guys like, well, I don't want to burn or freeze, and they're all drinking coffee and smoking. Seems actually kinda nice. So he chooses door 3. He wades down into the excrement and sloshes his way to the coffee pot and pours his first cup. Around 5 minutes later, the demon enters the room and says, alright everyone, break's over. Stand on your heads. Blind man walks into a hardware store with his seeing eye dog. Picks the dog up by its tail and starts swinging it around over his head. Manager walks up and asks, hello sir, can I help you? Blind man replies, nah, just looking around. What do dark humor and food have in common? Not everybody gets it. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.